Hello, welcome to Fictional Narrative. I'm Neri, and this is a place where I review books. Typically on Saturdays, I do a series called Cozy Saturdays, but during the series, I usually review cozy mysteries. But today, I want to talk about a book that's just really cozy all around. That book is What You're Looking For is in the Library by Michiko Aoyama, which I have the physical copy of right here. And it's super, super cute. Look at the cat. This book is also translated by Alison. The original language is Japanese. So part of the synopsis says, "What are you looking for?" So asked Tokyo's most enigmatic librarian. For Sayuri Komachi is able to sense exactly what each visitor to her library is searching for and provides the book recommendation to help them find it. Which automatically is a premise I love. I love library settings and a librarian who's magically able to, not so much like there's magic in it, but she's really able to help people who are kind of lost in different phases of their life to find what it is that they're looking for. And in the most strangest of places, a lot of her recommendations seem out of the blue to the people who are borrowing the book. And in a way, I love that so many of these characters kind of just stumble upon the library. They're part of the community, but they don't really think about the library that's there until, of course, for one reason or another, they find themselves in the library either because they're bored or they're searching for something to do. And it's like the librarian helps them, in a way, find themselves and the answer that they're looking for. This book is divided into several different short stories that are kind of interwoven. A lot of the characters come back and we see them at different capacities, what they mean to somebody else, what their relationship is with somebody else as a new story sort of blossoms. And it's a really, really cool way to kind of link everything and give a sense of community without these characters absolutely having to do with the main story or having too much to do with each other's lives. So my favorite story are the first and third story. The first story follows Tomoka, who is a 21-year-old women's sales assistant who feels like, she came to Tokyo from a small town, and it was definitely something that was prestigious, but now feels stuck in her life. And it's a very, very sweet story. It talks about the idea that maybe she should do something bigger or more with her life, but that doesn't necessarily mean that it's what she wants. And then upon meeting the librarian suggests to her a book on top of the other books that she's reading because she's attending an Excel class. That ends up turning her perspective totally on its head. The other story that I really love is actually the third story in the book, and it follows Natsumi, who is a 40-year-old former magazine editor. She used to have a really busy, prestigious job where she had started climbing up in her career. And then she fell pregnant, and while she loves her child, she loves her husband, she loves having a family, she came back to work to find that she was sidelined because of that pregnancy. And so she goes through life figuring out what kind of work environment she wants to be a part of. How is she going to find balance within her life and also her working life? And her husband actually is very receptive and contributes to helping her out so that she can also achieve what she wants. There are various characters within this book in multiple different stories. Their age ranges differ, their phase in life is different, and so the way that they're viewing their life and how they want to choose to live it is also very different. It's definitely one of those books where it makes you slow down and think about your life and what makes you happy, where you want to go, but not in a terrifyingly existential way, but in a way that is asking you what is fulfilling to you and how can you achieve that without thinking that every other aspect of your life is kind of the enemy. And I think the messages in every single story, regardless of age, can contribute to this larger conversation, especially as we as a society even if, let's say, our society is not the same culturally or whatever as a Japanese society, everybody is getting busier. And in that sense, it's easy to lose focus of yourself, what you need to prioritize for yourself. And maybe it wasn't even something that you were absolutely thinking of, because you're like, I have to get this done, I have to get this done, this is what pays the bills, whatever have you. And it's just short stories like these make me particularly feel like I'm grateful for certain things that I have in my life, things that I've achieved, things that I should celebrate as a small win, even though in my head I'm like, this isn't really a big achievement. But why wouldn't it be a big achievement? Why can't it be even a good achievement for me to say pay a bill or cook a meal or something like that? It should not be a big deal to celebrate myself, and it shouldn't be corny or cringy or anything like that. It should just be, wow, I was able to do something for myself. Why can't I be happy with that? And what else can I do to make myself happier? The simple things. And of course, the important question is, there's a cat on the cover. Does the cat play a big part in the story? No, not really. With this book, though, there are some particular characters that I think could have also had a story. Of course, they kind of just get explained within the stories of other people who go to the librarian for help. So I understand why at that point they wouldn't have a story, because they did not go to librarian Komachi for help. However, I personally would have just loved to hear their stories. For example, in the first story, Kiriyama is another salesperson, but for a different store or a different portion of the store. And he does come up again as a character in Natsumi's story as well. And almost in a sense of, he is kind of an anchor in a way of helping people find their way. He helps Tomoka kind of find her confidence and her balance. And then later we find out that he also used to be part of a company that used to work with Natsumi. And so she asks him why he switched careers and if he's happy, and he is. I would have loved to know more intimately about his story. Like, lay it out for me. I'd love to hear it. There's also a young writer that Natsumi later ends up deciding she wants to help get published. His name is Seitaro, and we hear about Seitaro in the story of Hiroya, who is 30 years old and still trying to find his way of contributing to his household and not being just someone who lives off his mother after he has had an education and has talent as an illustrator, but hasn't found the meaningful work that he wants to do. I think it's interesting that Seitaro was still able to, since childhood, continue to write into adulthood to the point where he is being scouted to be published, and he still says, I like my job at the waterworks and I want to continue, and I want to see what his life is like, how he was able to still have the strength to move forward in doing something that he loves but may not see success in, and the work that he does find success in. One thing I feel like I could have done without, but I guess it's just the humor of the book, is the running gag in which every single character of the story, every single character whose story it is, when they meet the librarian, they have very different impressions of her, which is fair enough. She's described as, not conventionally attractive, really not what they were expecting, like in terms of a mild-mannered librarian. She's felting all the time, so she's... a lot of times when the character meets her, she's stabbing felt, which also, because of this book, I picked up felting, and it's nice when you don't actually, end up stabbing yourself. But she's tall, she's a large woman, and sometimes they get really descriptive in describing her as a running gag, and I'm like, I get it. That is their first impression, but then they actually get to talking to her, and it's totally different. But at the same time, I'm like, is it necessary? But then I also wonder if, because of where they are in their life, that's just a projection in a way of them onto another person, but it gets treated as a running gag throughout the entire book. It's not too heavy, but I do want to warn everybody that it is there. If it's not something that everybody is comfortable with, I totally get it. Better to know than not know. I do, of course, love this book. I read this while procrastinating on reading Before the Coffee Gets Cold, which, as I am aware, is also a series of short stories, so I will finish it this year. At least the first one. So anyway, this is a cozy read that got a 5 out of 5 from me, and I do think that I'll find myself revisiting it just because I think the concept is really cute. And I wonder if there is a continuation. I don't know. I didn't do the research on that. I feel like I should have. But that's okay. Because at this point, I find myself in the ownership of multiple books that were translated from Japanese that are also a collection of short stories. And I think all of them have cats on them. Let me know if you have a book that you would recommend that is not a cozy mystery, but absolutely is a cozy book. Put it in the comments. And if you watched it this far, thank you so much, and I will see you next time. Bye!